The 2010s were a golden age for NFL passing. Quarterbacks were throwing up record-breaking numbers, airing the ball out like never before. And one of the key factors? The rise of the pass-catching tight end.
These big-bodied, versatile players didn't just block. They became go-to weapons in the passing game. They dominated the middle of the field, giving defenses nightmares. The 2010s gave us some unforgettable tight ends who shaped the game, including Rob Gronkowski, Jimmy Graham, and a guy named Travis Kelce.
But beyond those household names, there are plenty of other tight ends who played crucial roles for their teams. They might not have had the flashy numbers of a Gronk or a Kelce, but they were dependable, and their impact shouldn't be overlooked. Let's take a look at some of the tight ends from the 2010s who the streets will never forget.
Jared Cook's career was one of what could have been. Drafted by the Titans in 2009, Cook played through 2 frustrating years under Jeff Fisher before moving on to the Rams. After his rookie contract, Cook pushed for a franchise tag as a wide receiver, but the Titans weren't having it. He bounced around, landing in Green Bay in 2016. Although his numbers weren't eye-popping, under 400 yards that year, Cook had a huge moment in the playoffs. In a classic 34-31 shootout against the Cowboys, Cook made a clutch 36-yard sideline catch that set up a game-winning field goal. Aaron Rodgers famously called him Cookie and was not happy when Cook left Green Bay after that season. Cook never reached 1,000 yards in a season, but he always had the tools to do so. Sadly, his career was often hindered by subpar quarterback play. Still, Cook's skill set made him a consistent weapon throughout his 13-year career. Side note, who the hell was throwing to him? Matt Hasselbeck? Totally forgot he was on the Titans.
Owen Daniels may not have been a household name, but he was one of the most reliable tight ends of the 2010s. Drafted by Gary Kubiak in 2006, Daniels spent 8 seasons with the Houston Texans. When he moved on, he followed Kubiak to Baltimore and Denver. In Denver, he capped off his career with a Super Bowl victory in 2015, proving he could still contribute at the highest level. Daniels wasn't flashy, but he was dependable, always there when you needed him. He wasn't the most athletic or dynamic, but if you had him on your fantasy team, you knew he'd get you some points. If he had played alongside Peyton Manning earlier in his career, he might have been remembered as the next Dallas Clark. To me, Owen Daniels kind of represents that Matt Schaub era of Texans football, like the first era where we actually took the Texans seriously as a franchise, not the David Carr years where he was being destroyed behind a shitty offensive line, but when the Texans were actually making some noise with Schaub and Andre Johnson.
Delanie Walker's journey was a bit of a slow burn. Early on, with Alex Smith as his quarterback, his stats didn't stand out. But when he moved to Tennessee in 2013, things took off. Between 2014 and 2017, Walker posted 4 straight 800-yard seasons, becoming one of the most consistent tight ends in the league. While he was known for his blocking, Walker was one of the most balanced tight ends of the 2010s. He could do it all: catch passes, block, and move the chains when his team needed it the most. Alongside Gronkowski, he was one of the best all-around tight ends of the decade.
Vernon Davis entered the league as a freak athlete, drafted 6th overall by the 49ers in 2006. He took a while to get going, but by his 4th season, Davis became a major weapon, posting nearly 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. In hindsight, his career was overshadowed by the rise of Gronk, Graham, and Kelce. His athleticism at the tight end position was unmatched. However, he never fully lived up to the hype of being a top 10 draft pick. Even though his career was a bit inconsistent, Davis still managed to play 14 seasons in the NFL. His contributions to the 49ers offense were undeniable. With many great players, Davis's career only really took off once Jim Harbaugh showed up and they finally got some competent play out of Alex Smith. But as soon as Harbaugh arrived, Davis was firmly on the map, and he doesn't get enough credit for what he did for the franchise before Harbaugh even showed up.
Kyle Rudolph was the definition of a steady, reliable tight end. Spending 10 years with the Minnesota Vikings, Rudolph was a consistent presence in their offense. While he never posted huge yardage numbers, he was a red zone threat and one of the better blockers at his position. At 6'6" and nearly 260 pounds, Rudolph was a nightmare for defenders in short yardage situations. He wasn't as flashy as some of the other tight ends of the decade, but his reliability made him a key player for the Vikings throughout his career. The 2010s brought us a generation of tight ends who changed the way we look at the position. From dynamic pass catchers to all-around weapons, these players elevated the NFL's passing game to new heights.
While names like Gronkowski, Kelce, and Graham often get the most attention, players like Jared Cook, Owen Daniels, Delaney Walker, Vernon Davis, and Kyle Rudolph played pivotal roles for their teams. These are the tight ends the streets will never forget.